Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be checking out the camera system from Longer, and what better way to check it out than to pair it with the B1 laser platform from Longer. I'm also going to be going through the Lightburn setup and then two practical applications of what a camera system can bring to us laser users. All that coming up in this video. Welcome to the Laser Channel, where we learn, create, and share. My name is Greg, and let's dive into things right away. Camera systems. I think they're one of the most overlooked accessories for a laser machine. We don't know what we're missing until we get one, and then we realize we probably should have got one a long time ago. They make setting up the workspace and the computer graphic alignment to the workspace so much easier and quicker. So let's check out the camera. First of all, the system is centered around a 5 megapixel camera, which I think is a perfect balance between value and high enough resolution to see everything that's going on within the work area. The camera boom and clamp system is fully compatible with the B1 and the Ray 5 series from Longer, and really this is going to be a universal accessory as long as it can clamp onto the back of the machine or even the front. And if that's not going to work, certainly clamping the camera system down to a sturdy workbench is going to work equally as well. Before we jump into the computer system and get the camera set up, let's check out this universal mounting system. The camera is mounted up to this swivel ball head, allowing it to face in virtually any direction. The two-piece camera boom is held together with this bracket. It's going to allow for height adjustment and tilt adjustment of the camera system. Those settings are made independently with a separate knob to either side of the bracket. The clamp system is very simple but very effective. A simple hand screw tightens everything together. There's a rubber pad located on this part of the bracket as well as this round silver piece. This is going to increase the grip strength onto the machine or the workbench without leaving any marks behind. If the camera system is presenting some mounting challenges for your machine and your workbench, then turn towards the sky. Maybe it could be mounted up to the ceiling. The camera system also includes this nice full sheet of instructions, hardware setup on one side, and software setup on the other. 5 mini pieces of bass plywood for camera setup, camera calibration dots, and a tape measure. We've got metric on one side and inch for the rest of us. If you'd like to check out more details on the camera, I'll have a link down in the video description for you. Now, full transparency, if you do purchase through those links, I earn back a small commission at no cost to you. It's just one of the ways to help support the Laser Channel so I can continue making videos like this for all of you. The other thing that you can do to help support this channel, and it's totally free, is to hit that like button or subscribe to the channel. And with that covered, let's get back to the setup. While there's instructions that come with the camera system, I'm actually not going to be using those today. I'm going to be using my own method, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with all of you today, along with mixing in some of my best tips and tricks for getting the most out of your camera system. The first thing I'm going to do before I even jump into the computer is I'm going to think about the thickness of material I typically use with my laser machine. And on this one, it's usually 1/4 inch material. So I'm going to grab some of that and basically just populate the entire workspace. What I'm trying to do is get that stack height so that the work material height to the camera is always the same distance. This is going to produce the best accuracy within the camera calibration. The other thing that's going to be a part of the camera calibration is we're going to be doing some line engraving, and for that I like to use some cheap poster board, the kind with the white core. Today, all I've got is black. It works perfectly well, but I also like to use blue and green as well. I'll place that on top of my wood material for that stack height, and I'll also set the focus of the laser down to all of this material. And with that, now I'm ready to jump into the computer and start the camera calibration within Lightburn. The first area I want to go to is going to be camera control, and if you're not seeing a tab within your software, we can navigate over to Window and scroll down until we see Camera Control. We'll put a checkbox right there, And now camera control tab is now accessible. All right, now I've already got it connected up to the USB camera, and let's check that out. That is a live view. This live view is great because it's what I'm going to use to make sure that the camera is properly positioned over the work area and that everything is squared up so it looks straight and correct on the screen. Here we're going to see that the laser gantry right here is nice and square to the bottom of the screen along with the sides. And don't worry if you're off just a little bit, the camera calibration is going to take that all into account. Here's the target dots that come with the camera system. I can also print out this target pattern within Lightburn software. I'm going to veer away from that and use the Lightburn recommended QR squares. They're actually called April tags, but in this video, I like to call them QR codes. This is a much more accurate way of setting up the camera. Before I start the camera calibration process, I want to make sure that my start from position is in absolute coordinates, and I want to make sure that the machine is homed. I also know from playing around with my laser machine and the camera system that the home position of the laser machine gets in the way of the camera view, so I'm going to, within the Lightburn software, index or move the laser head off to this area right here. From here, I'll navigate to Laser Tools and Calibrate Camera Lens. This is going to start a two-step process, starting out with presenting the target pattern up to the camera. Pretty straightforward process. From there, it's going to immediately take us into Calibrate Camera Alignment. This is where it's going to engrave a test pattern on that poster board, and then we're going to associate where the camera picks up that pattern to where it is on the computer screen, and that will complete the setup process. This brings up this dialog box. I'm going to make sure that I have the correct USB camera selected. The lens, we're going to use a standard lens. And the use preset, we're going to do none. We're going to be doing a full calibration pattern, where I'm going to use the April tags. From here on out, it's going to be really straightforward. There's a reference diagram at the top of the screen, and on the bottom is my camera that we're calibrating. It is a live view. I just take the April tags and place that in the corresponding spot to make sure that it matches the top. And I'll click on capture, and it's going to come back with a score. I got 0.25, and we're looking for 0.5 or less. This looks good, and I'll continue on through the rest of this process. That's it, and I'm all finished for step number 1, and it only took about 1 or maybe even 1.5 minutes. From here, I'll click on Align Camera, and that's going to take us into the second step of the calibration. Once again, it's going to confirm that we're using the correct camera. I'll click on Next. And this screen, it looks kind of complicated, but it's really not. This is the test pattern that it's going to engrave into the poster board. I usually leave all of this stuff alone, along with the material thickness. I leave that alone. What I do change is the engraving settings. For the fill speed, I'm going to turn that up to 120. I'm going to turn the power all the way down to about 10%. The line speed, I'm going to turn that, actually, I'll leave that at 50, and I'm going to put that at about 8% because I know from experience the line engraving, it goes over it twice. That looks good, and I'm ready to put some safety glasses on and start this engraving. That's all complete, and we're going to hear that I've got the fan plugged back in on the laser head, so we're going to hear that whistling away in the background. Now, right now we're going to see that I've got all of the test targets have been engraved, except the laser machine is covering up number 3 and 4, so I'm going to have to use the jog buttons down here at the bottom to get that out of the way. Okay, I think that's going to work, and I can click on Next. We'll capture a new image. And from here, it wants us to click on marker number 1, so I can scroll wheel in, and I want to zoom in as much as I possibly can. And I'm going to double click and just move over to marker number 2. And that's it, I'm all complete. The whole entire process from start to finish took less than 10 minutes. Now before I start using the camera, I've got one of my best tips for you. That's going to be over in camera control. Put the mouse over the camera view on the side here and right click, and we're going to get this pop-up menu, and I'm going to export the camera settings. This is going to save that two-step process we just did. Now the first thing that I like to do is always go back and double check that calibration. So I'm going to draw a little circle right here, and I'm going to Control D to duplicate it. And what I'm going to do is put one near each of the test targets and one near the middle. In fact, I'll put it exactly in the middle. Now without moving anything, I'm going to go back over to camera control and update the overlay. And I'm going to zoom in, and what I can do is grab the pen tool, and I can go from the shape that I drew to what I believe would be the center of that line it just engraved. And I can reselect that, and I can turn it so it's perfectly horizontal, and then I can look up here and see that on the width it is 0.0265 inches, which is really good for those of us in metric. That is 0.6 millimeters. I can go through and check that for the rest of these. This one is basically spot on. I couldn't ask for anything better. The center one looks like it's off. Again, maybe about 0.5 millimeter. Same thing down in that corner. And this one is exactly on. So I've got a great calibration with this camera. The camera's working great. And now let's find some practical applications for our newly set up camera. Here's my two favorite applications for camera systems, starting out with scrap material. If we've been lasering for a little bit, we probably have full stacks of this stuff where we've got usable material, but a lot of our graphics are odd shapes, and it's really hard to frame out and know exactly where that graphic is going to land. Now with the camera system, I know exactly where I can place my graphic or where I shouldn't. The other application is maybe something like this. I hung on to this coffee box, and it's got some really neat graphics that I'd like to check out. So with the camera system, I can update the overlay within the software, and then I can trace that out and basically reproduce this. So this is a good application. The first project is going to reuse this piece of scrap material, and I'm going to just randomly toss it down within the work area. Inside Lightburn, I have the graphic loaded in. I've got this nice dog with a kind of a circle background. I'll go over to camera control and update overlay. And there we can see our randomly tossed piece of wood. From here, all I need to do is just resize my artwork. So here we can see that I can get it nestled right in there, knowing that my accuracy is sub 1 millimeter, which is great. If I want, I can also take it over to this corner and stretch it out and make it as large as I feel comfortable with. Now, if we take a closer look at this, we're going to see that the wood grain is running this way. So that's the other thing with this camera system. I get that real-time view of what's going on, and I don't want the wood grain going diagonally through my project. So I'm actually going to be able to turn this and resize it accordingly. And I like the way that that looks. And maybe I'm using a piece of wood that has a knot in it, and I want to keep my graphic away from that. Or maybe I want that knot in the wood to be a part of the graphic engraving that I'm doing. I think I'll hit the start button and we'll watch a little video montage of this first project being made. And by the way, when it's all complete, before I move anything, I'm going to update the overlay, and we're going to double check once again just how accurate the camera calibration is. that didn't take too long at all. You'll see on the graphic I did add this red cut line as well. Let's see how accurate the camera is. Let's update the overlay. Look at that. Perfect alignment. Check that out. I don't think I could ask for any better. And check this out. The project looks great. This 40-watt laser module is able to keep all of this fine, intricate detail. The first project turned out great, and for the next project, I cut off the side panel of that coffee box that we saw earlier in the video. That looks something like this. I'm going to get this placed underneath the machine, and we're going to use the camera to scan that image into the computer and then engrave it onto this piece of wood that came with the camera. Onto camera control and update the overlay. That looks pretty cool, and I can go and see if I can't trace this out. Let me zoom in a little bit here. I think that all looks pretty good. Usually, Lightburn software on the default settings for trace turned out pretty good. I like the way this all looks, and I'll click OK. And you're going to see I captured a lot of stuff in the background, so I'm going to ungroup all of that. I'm going to grab just what I want and move it off to the side. Grab all of this, delete that out, reselect that, and Control-G to regroup it back together, and I can pull this back over and make sure that we've got all the detail that we want. I think that looks great. I'm all done with this. Now it's time for the wooden blank. I'll grab some of my favorite red magnets to box in that piece of wood so it doesn't move around during this second project. I'll update the overlay again, and there's the project material. Right now I'm going to move this graphic over back to an engraving layer, and I'm going to do an outline so I can cut it out. That looks pretty good, and I've already got the laser focused, and I'll hit start and we'll check out this next project. On the second project, before I update the overlay, I just wanted to mention that even though we had a calibration height on the work area of about 1/4 of an inch, this material is about 1/8 of an inch, and let's see if it threw off any of the accuracy. Still looks pretty good. It is off just a little bit. The height that we calibrated the camera does have an impact on the overall accuracy. I grab the pen tool and let's just see how far off it is now that we're using a different height than what we calibrated the camera at. So now we're going to be off nearly 2.5 millimeters on this one side, and for those of us using Freedom units, that's 0.09 inches. And with this thinner material, that error that I have is a little bit more than I'd like, but you know, for placing a graphic on work material very quickly and very easily, it's still plenty accurate enough that I didn't overhang any of the edges. Both projects turned out great, and if I'd like to get these cleaned up, there's no better solution than LA's Totally Awesome. It simply melts away all of the smoke residue, and once that's dry, a quick coat of some Minwax polyurethane is a great way to put a nice protective finish on today's projects. Adding a camera system to our laser machine is one of the most often overlooked upgrades or accessories for our laser machines. As we saw in today's example projects, they bring flexibility and versatility. Thanks for joining me, and don't forget to give this video a like or subscribe to the channel. Not only is it a great way to help this channel grow, it's an awesome way to connect video content like this with other great viewers just like you. And until we meet again in the next video, I'm Greg from the Laser Channel, where we learn, create, and share.